Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria Q. Kane.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. We are back from our spring break. I don't know if you guys noticed, but we missed you, and we have so many news stories to cover that we're actually going to do 2 episodes this week.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So let's kick off with our first story of the week, which is all about Disney and their Croc ban. So we were on the West Coast for our little vacation over the last 2 weeks, and we went to Disneyland for the first time as a family. So when we met up with you guys in the parking lot, I noticed Lulu was wearing Crocs, which I thought was definitely a questionable choice because
This is 100% your fault, by the way.
I know I bought them for them, but they did ask for them, to be fair. But she was wearing the platform fuzzy ones, and it was pretty hot outside, so I don't know what she was thinking. But she assured me she was fine because they were in sports mode, whatever that means.
Oh, God. I hate that phrase so much.
So anyway, she went the whole day, and she seemed to be fine with them. But funny enough, when we were sourcing stories, we saw that there is a new ban going into effect at Disney World, and that really pertains to escalators. So, according to Inside the Magic, Disney has banned wearing Crocs on escalators after having several incidents of them getting stuck and then breaking the escalator. So, these situations seem a little isolated to Epcot and Disney World at the Land Pavilion. There's been a couple instances in the last couple of months where somebody's just casually going up the escalator, their shoe gets stuck, it breaks the escalator, it pisses everybody off. These little stickers are popping up on the escalators that have a little Croc symbol with a big red slash through them, don't wear these on here. But these stickers aren't new. They were showing up in Disney Springs in 2021, so I guess they've been having problems with this for a couple of years now, but it's definitely interesting.
I don't care as much about their escalators breaking as much as the pathology that could happen because of injuries that occur with these things. So a couple years ago, there was a kid that got their Crocs stuck in an escalator, and it caused their foot to become mangled in there, and they have permanent disability because of it. And escalator accidents aren't very common, but when they happen, they can be really bad. They could cause amputations, and I've even reported a couple cases of people dying from an escalator incident. So this is what Disney's really afraid about, not the rides breaking down, I assure you.
I'm just so curious what about those versus other shoes causes them to get stuck, because they're pretty thick, so I feel like they'd have a harder time getting trapped. It has to be something with the material.
I really think it's because people drag their feet when they wear them because they feel like they're going to fall off of your feet, unless they're in sports mode, apparently. But it's probably because people aren't picking up their feet like they normally would in a shoe. I'm not really, and they are like a foam piece of crap, right? Ultimately, I don't
know if they're pieces of crap just because they're not aesthetically pleasing to the eye. But I've never worn them personally, but my husband enjoys them.
How can I ban Crocs from my house?
I'm telling you,
just because I don't want to look at them.
You could probably order a roll of 1,000 of those stickers and put just hand them out at the door when people get in. It would be pretty funny.
I'm all for this ban.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's hurting people, it's gotta go. But a lot of people wear Crocs to Disney, so I don't know how they're getting around, or they have to go
That's
up
what Gabe said. When I told Gabe about it, he was like, well, that eliminates 75% of the people at Disney.
Yeah, so.
All right, let's talk about some celebrity news.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, we reported that Olivia Munn had a double mastectomy after her breast cancer diagnosis. So now she's decided to have a hysterectomy to go along with her double mastectomy.
Were you trying to?
I was going to say the other one, but I don't even want to try. What is it?
I knew that one was going to stump you up. Okay, so she did this breast cancer assessment tool and found out that she was at 37% risk, and then she ended up getting testing done and found out that she had cancer and got a bilateral mastectomy, or both breasts cut off, as Maria said. And she was put on a drug called Lupron, which inhibits estrogen production, and that is because her particular tumor, it is kind of fueled by estrogen or hormones, so they give you medication to make it stop. This medication also helps preserve fertility. She's she's what, 42,
Yeah,
43?
she's pretty young. She's in her
She's
late
pretty
30s, early 40s.
Yeah, so she's pretty young and she might still want to have more kids. But the side effect of this drug is that she felt like shit. She was tired all the time and just like so much lack of energy that it was affecting her day-to-day life. So she decided to freeze her eggs and save them for a later date and then get a hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy, which is removing the fallopian tubes and the ovaries as well. And that would take away the estrogen out of your body. So that's why she decided to get that surgery.
Yeah, I mean, I never could have said that word, so thanks for saving me out of that one. She's reportedly had 5 surgeries since her cancer diagnosis. Yeah, so she, like you said, she has frozen her eggs. I believe they made viable embryos too. So she dates this comedian, John Mulaney. So I'm sure now they have one son together. So now they have the option to have more kids, even though she can't naturally carry them. So
Yeah, she's been through it, man. I
yeah.
mean, these are hard decisions that you have to make, but ultimately you have to live for your life, and especially if she's already a mom, she has a kid here that she needs to be healthy for. So, I mean, to think about getting a double mastectomy and getting a complete hysterectomy is a lot in a short period of time to heal from that.
I can't even imagine, and especially you're the mother to a young child too, going through all of this. It's horrible.
Yeah, it really is. And just I mean, just because people are famous and have money or whatever, like none of that stuff really matters when you're dealing with things that like everything just can't be fixed for you, you know? It's sad.
Yeah, so next. 2 weeks ago, the Times had reported that a worm had crawled into RFK Jr.'s brain and ate part of it. So apparently this information has been around for over a decade. So in 2012, he revealed during a divorce deposition that he had been dealing with severe memory loss issues dating back to 2010. After getting scans, doctors believed he had a brain tumor and he was scheduled to get a procedure. However, another doctor came to the conclusion that it was, quote, was caused by a worm that got into my brain and ate a portion of it and then died. How does this happen?
We've actually talked about this a couple times. And this has happened to me working in the lab. Sometimes they think a person has a brain tumor and they would send a piece of it down for frozen section for us to look at in the lab. And then it would turn out like, oh, this person actually has an infestation with a pork tapeworm. Remember we talked about it with the guy that liked the soft bacon?
Yeah, yeah.
And then we talked about it last month with the woman that was having seizures for 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you either ingest undercooked pork or you can also get it from the eggs from the pork tapeworm, this tapeworm can go into your brain and kind of insist itself within your brain and it actually is the number one cause of seizures in worldwide, but it's not common in America. He says that he thought that he maybe got it when he took a trip to South Asia.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. So, moving forward, does he get surgery to remove it or does it just kind of live there forever now that they know
Well,
it's dead?
I think that they think he had the infection and it kind of went away on its own, but the evidence of it is still there. Normally, they would treat somebody with an antiparasitic medication to kill it, but they wouldn't normally do surgery to remove it. The only reason that I got it in the lab in that one instance is because they thought it was a tumor and they were trying to figure out what it was just by the way that it
Mhm.
presented. Um, but yeah, it's common in other areas of the world. It's not something that we see here, but we do see it in America, especially because people travel here or they're
Yeah.
born in another country. But this makes me think about, I don't know if you saw my mystery diagnosis that I did yesterday was the reveal,
Oh, I saw
was
it.
the African eyeworm. When I was writing that, I was thinking, I've always thought about this when I was in PA school and I was learning about all these parasites and stuff. It's like, you know about the ones that occur in America where you live and you know what to avoid and you know not how to get things. But especially things like the eyeworm, the parasitic eyeworm, there are things that you get from a bite of a fly or something. Like you can't avoid that. With pork, it's a little bit easier because you just make sure that it's cooked really well. Although you could still get the eggs just by unsanitary practices in certain countries, but certain things that you can get are terrifying. We're going to talk about another one later today too, but you could just get them from like mosquito bites and stuff. And that is really it scares you a little bit because I want to travel all over and I think about like, oh God, what if I got bit by a mosquito and got this weird thing that, you don't normally worry about when you get bit by mosquitoes here.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is scary, but I guess he seems fine today, so it's just weird that they've known this for so long and it's just coming out now, but I guess when you're a politician and you're just in the limelight, just all these
Well, they want to use they
yeah.
would want to use it against him, I'm sure. That's like he shouldn't have said anything because that's like, oh my God, cha-ching, awesome, thank you,
Yeah.
thanks for that information. You have brain damage because you have a parasite living in your brain, awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so next. A 29-year-old Sharif Lal has died after making his professional boxing debut. So during the fight this Sunday, Sharif was knocked out by opponent Malam Varela after being hit in the head in the fourth round. I believe it was supposed to go 6 rounds, and it was the first fight of the entire card. He was treated on the scene by paramedics. However, he died at the hospital that night. So I feel like this really just shows, people watch boxing all the time and they obviously get hurt and everything, but I feel like it's not rare, but we don't often see that fighters die immediately following the fight.
What I just don't understand boxing. You're just punching someone in the head to knock them out. It just seems very barbaric and what do you think is going to happen, right?
Well, the paycheck's probably worth it because they get lit up. So,
Well, so the most common injuries with boxing actually are just like lacerations on the face from getting punched or things like that. But I guess the whole point is to knock someone out, but usually they become unconscious right away. They fall to the ground and then they regain consciousness very quickly thereafter. So, but in some cases, you could knock someone out and they don't ever get back into consciousness and they end up dying from it, like in this case, which is it's just completely tragic. The most common thing that you really worry about with boxers isn't the acute injury or what could happen in the ring. It's what happens years down the line from having repeated concussions, which are common with boxers. And that could cause CTE, which is a chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is what we see in football players as well.
yeah, I mean, they were even saying like one of the last situations that this happened, a boxer got hit and he was put in a coma and then died after the coma. And that's kind of what, for any movie people, that's what we see in like Million Dollar Baby. She gets hit and then it's not immediate that they die. So I definitely think this is sad. 29 years old, that's my age. So young to lose your life over something like that. It's really tragic that he made it to the professional level and his first round ever, it's done.
They've been reviewing statistics. There was a study done, they were reviewing statistics all the way dating back to 1720, long time ago, of boxing injuries. And they've estimated that 2,000 people have either died in the rink or from injuries related to it shortly thereafter, which over the course of whatever 300 some years seems like it ends up being like 6 people die a year from it. But it's kind of a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know. I personally never just understood that. I mean, I think it looks cool and everything and Rocky, like Philly girl, love that shit, but at the same time, like just I don't think I would be cool being married to somebody that was getting punched in the head for a living. It just it's just weird. I don't know.
No, yeah, for sure. Okay, next. Celebrity pathologist Dr. Cyril Wecht has died at age 93. So Dr. Wecht was he was in this, I don't want to say unique spot because other people are, but he had a law degree and a medical degree. So going back to 1964, he was acting as the assistant DA and a pathologist at a local hospital. At the time, he was asked to review the Warren Commission's report that concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald had assassinated Kennedy alone. However, Dr. Wecht, his whole life, argued that that could not be possible.
Yeah, which is interesting. And he was the creator, I guess, of this like magic bullet theory or whatever that he was shot with more than one weapon, which is interesting. Or more than one bullet at least anyway.
Yeah, so he kind of got a lot of publicity for his stance on that. He eventually went on to be consulted in other cases like John Benet Ramsey, the death of Elvis Presley. He went on TV to speak about Michael Jackson's death, evidence in the OJ trial. So this guy was kind of a big deal in your world. So it's sad, but he had definitely controversy associated with him as well. He was serving 2 stints as Allegheny County's coroner, but that ended short in 2006 when he resigned after being indicted with fraud and theft charges. But those did end up being dropped, but that something like that doesn't really leave you, once it comes up. So
I think what happened was that he was the coroner and he had this like really awesome morgue made, but then he was doing his private autopsies there as well, and then he was making like bank off of those private
yeah,
autopsies, doing them at a taxpayer, you know,
facility.
facility. Um, but but yeah, I mean, despite whatever you want to say about him, the guy was 93 years old, right? He was kind of instrumental in everyone right now that has an interest in true crime. It's because of guys like that, because nobody cared about this stuff or was interested in this stuff, and he started bringing it into pop culture kind of by doing these interviews with JFK and everything, and him doing these interviews and then writing books came into TV shows and then came into all the podcasts. So you he's instrumental in that, which is really awesome.
Yeah, and he was the president of both the American Academy of Forensic Science and the American College of Legal Medicine. So definitely a horrible loss for this community, but I'm definitely interested in his Kennedy theory, and I like that he was somebody that challenged everybody's opinion about things. It's always better to look further into something if it doesn't feel right.
Okay, let's get on the freak accidents.
So last night in India, a 100-foot tall billboard fell onto a gas station, killing 14 and injuring over 70 people. So the collapse was the result of a severe thunderstorm with high winds. Police are investigating and believe the billboard may have been illegally installed. So I understand, like, when I'm reading and researching this story, it says a 100-foot tall billboard, and I see them when I'm just driving around, obviously, but I didn't really understand just how large it looks when you put it in the scale of on the ground on top of a gas station, right? Like, the pictures in this article are showing this giant board just laying on top of this gas station. It's kind of nuts looking.
And multiple cars
Yeah,
underneath of
cars
it.
trapped underneath, all these people are trapped underneath. I guess just perspective is everything. Like, when you see it next to the highway, you're like, "Oh, it's big, of course," but you don't realize just how big it is when you're looking at it on the ground standing next to a person or on top of a car.
But why this is my question with this story, like, why were there 74 people at a gas station? Doesn't that seem like a lot?
I don't know. It didn't say they were necessarily all at the gas station. Like, they could have been walking by. It could have been a busy city street. You don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but 14 people getting killed for one thing is outrageous. That's so many people at one time.
It is outrageous, and it just something must not have been right because they have, this article was talking about how they have monsoon season and like they're no stranger to storms, right? So why is this one storm hitting this billboard over? Was it not properly secured? Clearly something wasn't right about it or it wasn't being inspected. I don't know, but a lot of people died for absolutely no reason.
This is like a new fear because I never I never really thought about it. When you see it, it is huge, but the ones on the bridge are probably that big, right? I mean, the really big ones that are next
That's what
on
I'm
the way to
saying.
Atlantic City or something.
That's what I'm saying. They
I
look
mean, they could
big.
fall right on the highway too, basically, right?
Yeah,
So
like they look
scary.
you could tell they're big, but like when you see it laying on top of the ground, you're like, "Holy shit, that's huge."
Yeah, well, when the average person is under 6 foot tall and it's 100 feet, I mean, think about that. It is a huge structure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so next. A couple weeks ago, a 23-year-old USC graduate was at a party at a house that backed up to a cliff in Santa Barbara. So he was trying to make his way through this crowd at a party. He was having trouble getting through to the other side. So he climbed over a 3.5 foot tall fence, which led to a concrete ledge. So, in an attempt to climb back over to get back in the party, he slipped and then fell 50 feet to his death off the edge of the cliff. So now his parents are suing the city, saying this was totally preventable. He's the 14th person that's died in this way in the last 30 years, and it just didn't need to happen.
We have fall cases every single week of someone falling at the Grand Canyon or something like that. And I always just kind of eliminate them because they're all it's I mean, it's unfortunate when people die trying to take a selfie or whatever, but it's just like it happens all the time. And the only reason that I added this case this week is because these kind of things annoy the shit out of me. I feel terrible that his parents lost a child. Obviously, it's the most hardest thing that any human ever has to go through. But to say that this is anyone's fault is ridiculous. And the only reason I say that is because there was a huge sign on the fence that said, "Danger, cliff, do not lean on the fence or cross over." What, like, why is anybody at fault for that?
Well, I was gonna say that too. So let's play devil's advocate and say he didn't see the sign. I think it's just common sense that maybe you shouldn't climb over a fence like that, even if you weren't aware of the cliff being there. But furthermore, they're trying to argue that, the homeowners weren't in the right because there's this new law as of November that fences have to be 6 foot high, but that's for new fences. So this was an older fence, so it's not necessarily like they were doing anything illegal. They had a fence, and if they got a new one, it would have had to be 6 feet high. But if somebody climbs a 6 foot high fence, are they liable too? It just doesn't really make sense.
This is the kind of shit that I can't stand about the government and stuff. So think about this. Like, you own a house. Where is it? Santa Barbara?
Yeah.
So that house costs millions of dollars to live on the ocean front, right?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, because some people are not paying attention or not reading signs or blowing off rules, they fall to their death. And that makes it my problem as a homeowner that now I have to put up a huge fence and obstruct my view of my multi-million-dollar house because people don't follow the directions. Think
Well,
about that.
isn't
That's
it
not
the same thing with having a pool? You have to have a certain size fence so nobody goes in your pool or gets hurt in your pool.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And I mean, I don't care about that because I like to have my yard kind of enclosed. But if I was living in Santa Barbara and looking at the ocean out of my bedroom window, maybe these people have a rancher or something, and you wouldn't be able to see over the fence anymore. It's not. I just don't see how that's the government's position to come in and change that.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to proceed with this lawsuit. I was kind of even surprised because of how it went down that a lawyer took it on, but I guess we'll
You're
just
surprised a lawyer.
No, but I'm looking at it like, okay, they can argue that there's this law and everything, but it's clear to a layperson like myself that there was no really wrongdoing on on this party's behalf.
Yeah, like
so.
the family said, "I don't want money. I just want people in jail."
No,
Like,
they said
for
I don't.
what?
No, he said I don't just want money.
But why would you want money or people in jail? What did anybody do wrong? I don't understand.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to blame them either. Like, they just have to look at it like it was a very tragic, unfortunate accident. Not
I mean,
everybody can be sued about everything.
and 14 people did the same thing, and it's like a party house. So what was probably involved in all of these cases? Let's take a wild guess.
Well, yeah, there could be drugs and alcohol involved, but also somebody could just be dumb and do it, right? So
Yeah, exactly. Just be born like
it's
male.
not like the house didn't have a fence and they just were walking
I
and slipped
know.
off the edge. They had a
Exactly.
fence with a sign. So, all right, let's get on the next one. A steel drum weighing thousands of pounds broke loose from a construction site, rolled, and then struck a 50-year-old woman, killing her. So she was walking with her colleagues on a break from work when she was struck, which caused fatal head injuries. The metal drum, which likely weighed around a ton, was from a construction site where a 240,000 square foot arena was being built.
This case was sent in to me actually by a grocery member. So the woman that was killed is a hospital employee who was on her lunch break when this happened. Just imagine how scary that was.
Yeah.
You definitely wouldn't ever be expecting that. And this grocery member worked at an adjacent hospital and had heard about this and was saying she was told by some first responders, like, thank God that she wasn't brought to the she wasn't going to be brought to the hospital because they were able to pronounce her on the scene because it was quite obvious that she was killed by this. And I mean, just severe blunt trauma. I can't even imagine something of that weight hitting a person, but it's like the definition of a freak accident, but it's just so terrible for her family.
It's terrible for her family. I'm thinking of her coworkers that, they were just like probably chatting it up, going to get lunch, and then all of a sudden you like not only lose your friend and coworker, but you have to witness that, and that's going to be repeating in your brain the rest of your life. It's
Yeah, and just
horrible.
thinking like there's this survivor's guilt. Like there's three of you walking along and one of you dies and the other ones are completely fine. Like how do you either could look at it two ways. You go on and think like, "Oh, thank God my life was spared," but also you would just feel so terrible that someone lost their life and thinking it could have been you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so next, in a similar situation, a 350,000-pound piece of equipment came off of a trailer, trapping a car beneath it. 3 people were initially trapped in the vehicle. 2 died. 1 has life-threatening injuries. It took 4 hours to rescue them. It's unclear what the equipment was for. Did you see the picture of it? It looked like
It looks huge and it
looked like
shouldn't
it
be
was
on
like
the
a
road.
piece of a bridge.
It was way too big to be on the road. That's the problem. And you guys have to look at this article because when you see how long and huge this thing is, it should have been on a train. There's no reason that should have been anywhere near people driving on a road.
Yeah, especially because just how are you possibly strapping something like that down on
Well,
on a
clearly they
tractor
didn't.
trailer? Yeah.
But this happened right. I think it happened like the day that we left. So Gabe and I and the kids drove to California and met Maria and Ricky out there, and my mom and my brother. And the whole time I was, we drove so many miles, so we drove by things like this all the time, and then I was saying to Gabe too, like something like this could totally happen when you're at work, and how would you even approach rescuing people in this situation where there's something that heavy that falls on top of people that you can't possibly lift up? And he assured, "Oh, we would handle it."
Yeah. Of course they
Which
would.
is interesting, which is just interesting because I guess you never really know what you're getting when you walk in.
I mean, this thing literally looked like a beam of a bridge. It was enormous.
It's like the size of my street.
Yeah.
Like, it's huge. I don't even know. Did it say how long it was? I'm not
I
sure,
don't
but
think it
just
said how long it was, but it was 350,000 pounds. So think about that.
yeah, it was more. It was not. It's not even as much of the weight. It's just the length of it. I just was thinking, like, how could you possibly be driving this on a road with other cars?
I don't know.
See, this to me is lawsuit worthy.
Yeah.
This is this is something like the accidental death, completely avoidable, not safe to begin with. Maybe this is something the family should pursue, kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, next. So, a 31-year-old man had gotten into a severe car accident, plunged his car into the woods, and was ejected, or they believe partially ejected from the car. So, when investigators got to the crash site, it appeared the guy's body was moved from the scene, and they determined that it was dragged by a bear partially into the woods. So, they're assuming, based on the injuries, that he was killed by the crash, but an investigation's underway, and they definitely know a bear was touching the body at least and dragging him along a little bit.
That is so outrageous. So they'll do an autopsy and then they'll determine what his injuries were caused, and it would be obvious for the most part if you had blunt injuries from going through a windshield and being ejected from a car versus attacked by a bear. Although a bear can cause blunt injuries as well because they're just so heavy. Didn't this just look like I know they showed a bear in the article. Is that the actual bear? Because there's a difference in bears. You could have like a normal like Jersey bear
No,
or like
I think
some
that was the bear because of the kind of picture it was.
yeah. So that I mean like that's like a semi-normal bear as opposed to like those giant ones that like eat your face off
Yeah,
kind of bears.
it was a black
Grizzly bear or
which,
something.
It was a black bear, which can be dangerous to humans, but aren't necessarily known to go out and attack people like a grizzly bear or a brown bear might. So I actually saw a taxidermy grizzly bear in Denver at this one restaurant we ate at, and it was crazy. Again, like I have horrible perspective with how large things are. I was looking at this bear. It's like 4 feet taller than me. It was crazy. But it was fully extended, like, in the, in the raw position.
We in the raw position. We went to the La Brea, tar pits, which was such a cool museum, and for those of you who aren't familiar with that, in LA, there are it's something to do with the tectonic plates and cracks in it, and the San Andreas Fault and fissures along it cause these cracks that allow asphalt to come up from underneath of the ground, and it's actually tar. It smells like tar that they would put in your street, and it's bubbling up out of the water, and there's different traffic cones all over the property, and it's coming up through the dirt. It's like the coolest thing in the world. But the reason that this was an important to make it a museum around it was actually like a paleological dig site, and because what happened was thousands of years ago, animals would go into this tar and get stuck because it's so sticky, and their bodies would be trapped and they would die and they would fossilize within this tar. So my whole point is that the museum attached to this had these prehistoric animals that like I would be petrified to think that one of those would be so big next to a human ever. They're just so large. Like an African elephant looks small compared to some of these animals, you know what I mean? And in the tar pit they found evidence of some of the bones of the animals had these this is actually really interesting. They had these like sharp marks on it that looked like they were cut with some kind of a tool, which indicates that at some point there were humans around that were hunting these animals, which and to think like that these things were around when humans were around is just so terrifying.
Yeah, it really is. Also, the placement of that place is so bizarre because Mama kept bringing it up, and I was thinking it was going to be in the middle of nowhere. And then we were at the Academy Museum, and you were like, "Oh, we're at the tar pits," and I looked on the map, and it was right next door in the middle. This like
Well, I
super.
mean, the city built around that though,
No,
kind of.
I know. I just was expecting it to be in this, like grand landscape that was totally rural, and it was just
No, it's
smack in the
cool because
middle.
I guess the San Andreas Fault's like the mega one, and then
Hmm.
there's like these cracks or fissures like off of it, and one of them is a major one called the 6th Street fissure, and it was like right around there. So that's what they're saying. It's kind of like I don't know. It just kind of reminds me of like a volcano and all. Like it's just I don't know. It's just so cool. Like the story of it, and you could see it, and the kids were poking at it, and of course I thought Lillian was gonna like fall and get stuck in it or get it on her shoes or something.
She would.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, our last freak accident story is really sad. So, a 61-year-old man and his 6-month-old grandson were just napping on a hammock in their backyard when a tree uprooted and killed them.
Do you think that it was this happened in Jersey? I heard this on the New Jersey station actually. Do you think that it was a tree that the hammock was attached to?
I'm going to say probably yes, and maybe the weight of them, it had to be dying, right? And maybe the weight of them just was the final straw, or maybe they were swinging with the wind or whatever, and that just like kind of caused it to happen. But I would say, yeah, I would think it was the one the hammock was attached to.
Yeah, so that's an important thing to know, like, if you're ever gonna put one of those things up in your yard to make sure that you don't attach it to a dead tree because that's what happens when there's storms and stuff, you see them all uprooted around, especially around here. It's because they're dead and they're not solid into the ground, and they could just lift out really easily, and it is the parents were apparently visiting from California, and I mean, just imagine, and I don't know if it was the wife or the husband's dad, but, like, lo imagine losing your dad and your child in that way, and it was completely innocent. It was just, like, a cute thing the grandpop was trying to do.
Yeah, it sucks because the parents of the child were visiting from California. I guess their grandparents, and then they just went out for a couple hours, and then this happens. It's horrible.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by CrimeCon.
Guys, CrimeCon is only 2 weeks away, and we officially have a schedule for you. So at 5:15 on Friday, we are going to be doing the first ever live Mother Knows Death. Saturday at 6:45 p.m., you're going to be doing your lecture called Deadside Manners, and then Sunday, you're following up with a meet and greet at 10:15 a.m.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm so excited to go and meet everyone and just hang out with everyone and be in a room finally with like people who think like me. So it doesn't happen quite
Yeah.
often.
No, but the schedule is officially out. You can look over everything. I am definitely marking up everything I'm going to be doing this time. So I'm really excited. We're so excited to meet you guys and do our first live show. It's going to be a really awesome experience. There are still a couple standard badges left, so you don't want to miss out on this opportunity because, they're going to go any day now. It's getting closer and you don't want to miss out.
Thanks, Crime Con. All right, let's get started with violent crime.
So I posted on Instagram yesterday that I had a brief stop in Vegas, which you did too, and at least 5 or 6 people sent me this story, which we were already gonna cover, but that kind of solidified why we had to. So a couple weeks ago, police in Las Vegas got a call there was an altercation between 2 men at a bus stop near the Strip just before 5 a.m. 45 minutes later, another call came in that one of the men was, quote, eating the other man's face. So, police arrived to find the 29-year-old suspect kneeling next to the victim with what they say, quote, biological matter in his hair, mouth, and on his clothing. He said the other guy attacked him first, but he did admit to doing it. The victim was pronounced dead at the hospital and had a large cut to part of his head and was missing an eye and an ear.
so, so you guys heard our external exam last week with Dr. Paul Kunaris, who's one of my great friends, and we actually visited him while we were in Las Vegas. That's where he lives. And he sent me this story and told me that his friend witnessed this.
Oh my God.
Yes. So he was kind of like freaking out, said, oh my God, look into this, blah, blah, blah. So I did. And I just I can't imagine. We should actually try to see if we could talk to that person, because imagine witnessing something like this. I mean, how terrifying is that?
No, because, that was my first time ever in Vegas, and I was like, I don't get what the big deal is here. But
It's
see, I guess because
it's for vice. It's a place for vices.
yeah,
For
but people are always
smoking,
like,
drinking, gambling,
I saw the
sex.
craziest shit, and I was like, I got a nice cocktail. We went to a buffet, gambled a little bit, and then I went back in the room. Like I didn't see anything crazy, but imagine seeing something like this.
Now, Paul wanted us, he was like, we can go people watching at certain places and see some crazy shit. But since I had the kids, I was like, you know what? I'll take a rain check and we'll do that next time.
Yeah, definitely. It would be interesting. Okay, next. A 21-year-old man in Kansas City has been indicted after posting photos of himself urinating in food and rubbing food items on his genitals. So, videos posted under the username Vandalizer showed a man urinating in restaurant-style food bins, pressing his penis and butt against food and using his feet to touch items. So, the FBI had got a tip about food contamination. I'm not sure if maybe somebody witnessed him do it, but I'm assuming if it was the FBI, it was probably over the internet somebody found it. But he was working at the Hereford House restaurant in Leawood in Kansas City. Police confronted him and he admitted to doing it, but said men on dating apps wanted him to make the videos, and they tracked him down through his IP address, which everybody should remember. If you're going to be doing some gross shit or you're going to be some internet troll, the IP address will always link you back to you. So don't be an idiot.
This is so nasty. And it's not really, the likelihood of you getting sick from this is very small, but it's just so gross.
Well, he only worked there for a month and said that he contaminated stuff at least 20 times. So they're urging anybody that ate there between March 26th and April 25th to come forward if they got sick at all or if they just have anything else to contribute.
Nothing's really going to happen. I mean, urine is like nothing's going to happen. I mean, the only thing that I think could possibly happen is fecal contamination. Possibly like getting poop on a leaf of lettuce, if that's what he was using to wipe his ass with, and then eating it. That would be the most concern.
Well,
but
what
like,
about the pee?
eh,
Because pee's
not
pretty
really.
sterile, right?
I mean,
It's
it can have
gross, but-
bacteria and stuff, but it's like, it's not going to do any. It's just disgusting. It's really disgusting. I mean,
Yeah.
and it really makes you think, like, everywhere that you eat, that this probably has happened to one of us at some point, right? It's just, and it just it's just really gross, I don't, I don't really know what else to say.
It is really gross, and I was thinking of all the restaurants I worked at and like some of the creepy guys we have working back there, and you just don't know what they're doing when they're unattended. Some of them have prep areas that are totally like in the basement or out of sight of everybody else. You don't know what they're doing down there.
I've worked at a couple restaurants and I've never luckily have seen anything like that with the food. I mean, there's a ton of other unethical things happening at all
Yeah.
times in the kitchen, but I luckily have never seen anything like that because that's just like crossing a line, man.
I don't even like obviously if I saw it I would say something, but I don't even know what I would do in the moment witnessing something like that. Like I don't
Remember
think what?
you know that movie Waiting?
Yeah.
That when the guy like spit like oh my god.
People
That's why I never complain at a restaurant.
No, but people, I mean, it doesn't even matter if you complain or not. If somebody's sick enough to do that, they might just do it just because they get off on doing it. So it's pretty disgusting, but
Speaking of sick fucks,
all right, so the leader of a Eunuch-Maker website has been sentenced to 22 years in prison for mutilating paying customers and live streaming the procedures. So 46-year-old Marius Gustavsson ran this operation for 4 years where customers would pay him to mutilate their bodies. He called himself the Eunuch-Maker, and the website was a pay-per-view website advertising services including castration, penis removal, and freezing of limbs.
he's claiming that he did this because people had body integrity dysmorphia.
Well, he was inspired because in 2017, he had gone through these procedures himself, and he said he felt a whole new confidence he didn't know he could feel. So he wanted to put smiles on people's faces and give them the opportunity to have this experience as well, which is why he did this. So it wasn't just him, though. He was working along with 6 other people to make this happen who were all.
So when he got this surgery done by a medical doctor, that was considered to be okay, but when he started doing it because he was unlicensed, it's not okay. I'm just asking because like I personally think there's like this whole movement of like cut off your arm because you feel like it's not a part of your body and stuff, and I think that's a little much.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think honestly the bigger problem in this was that he was like live streaming the procedure.
It was like an OnlyFans for mutilation kind of.
Yeah, I think that's probably what the main problem was here was that he was like charging for it, and then like if he just kept it on the DL, maybe it wouldn't have been as big of a deal, but
But like if his surgeon was streaming the surgery on Instagram or something, like that would be considered okay just because the guy's an MD, like or could we just frown upon this whole practice of
well, yeah, I would say like you
mean,
had
just-
your tummy tuck live streamed on Instagram, which thanks for ruining my life with that, but if somebody
But seriously, so like if
But if
you
one of
decided to give me a tummy tuck, then it would just be like so wrong.
yeah, I would get arrested. I'm pretty sure of it actually. Not that I know what I'm doing, but yeah, I don't know. I don't agree with what he was doing, but I don't know. I just don't know. To your point, like a doctor was doing it and that made it okay, but him doing it wasn't okay. So what was the problem? Like, what are his charges exactly? That's what I'm curious about.
I don't know. I mean, listen, like I think it is weird. I think that he cooked testicles, he apparently ate them. It's definitely weird, but it's just funny how it's considered okay if it's done in a medical setting. I mean, nobody's cooking and eating testicles in a medical setting, hopefully. But
People have before. So.
I don't know and I don't want to know. Thanks.
Yeah, especially because it's not like some Jeffrey Dahmer situation where he's like kidnapping people and doing it against their will and killing them. They're paying to have it done. So I'm
Yeah.
going to guess it's because they're not getting a cut of the money, and that's what the problem is here.
Probably.
All right, so this next story is one that I thought we had covered, but it's just extremely similar to another case we've covered. So, an Arizona woman who was charged with attempted murder after poisoning her husband's coffee has been sentenced to 3 years of probation, not jail. So, the story I thought it was a couple, or not a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, I think in February, we covered the story of a woman in Miami who put bleach in her husband's tea, but this is not the same case. So,
All right, can I just say something?
yeah,
Why, if you're going to poison someone, why the fuck would you use bleach?
the
It
most
smells,
fragrant of chemicals.
right? Like, it just doesn't even make any sense. It's like you're not really thinking at all. You would smell it if a cup was cleaned in bleach 5 washes ago. Like, why would you ever put it and think that you would get away with that? It just seems really amateur.
But when we walked in, we stayed at the Flamingo in Vegas, and when we walked in the door, it smelled like bleach so strong in the front lobby, and I said, "That's the smell of vacation bleach." Because you know when you go to like Disney World, it smells like bleach so bad everywhere because they're like
Yeah, I mean,
extra sterile there.
yeah, exactly. So I just don't, and the smell of bleach like makes me want to throw up. I can't stand it, honestly, but you would smell it so strong, especially right under your nose in a cup of coffee. Like, it's just the dumbest shit.
So this Arizona woman admitted to putting traces of bleach in her husband's coffee at least 2 times. The judge sentenced her to 3 years of probation and additional mental health treatment, citing a statement from her estranged husband saying he didn't want her to go to prison.
Yeah, which when I read that, I was like, oh, he did some bad shit to her, probably.
Yeah, because he suspected she was poisoning him and set up surveillance cameras and caught her doing it. And why wouldn't you go ahead and press charges?
That's the only thing I could think of. I mean, apparently they were going through a divorce, and she I guess the prosecutors think that she was trying to kill him to get the death benefit, which would be like not cool at all, obviously, to do that to somebody. But the fact that the husband's kind of like being lenient towards her makes me think that like he did something really bad and kind of can justify that she wanted to kill him because she was that angry.
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
in my opinion, I think even like the nicest or most religious of peoples aren't gonna not want justice served if they were tried to be killed. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly. And bleach can kill you. I had a case once of a girl who tried to kill herself and drank bleach, and I got her in surgical pathology. I got her entire esophagus, and I can't explain to you the damage that bleach did to this girl's esophagus. Like, it was outrageous. And to think that that could go on in the entire GI tract, I mean, it made it very swollen. It's a corrosive, right? So it just kind of eats through the tissue. It digests the tissue. It smells terrible, but it could make the bowel perforate and you can die from it, really. I don't know about like a shot of bleach is going to really do that much damage, but it could. But I'm assuming that he smelled it before he even drank it.
he did say he noticed one time that it tasted weird, and then I mean clearly he was suspicious enough to set up cameras over the coffee pot. So
Oh my, how do people live?
I don't know.
All right, medical news.
A 72-year-old man has suffered from a severely swollen penis for 17 years due to a silent infection with worms.
Yeah, I mean, I read this and then I remember reading about this in school. So again, this is another case of this doesn't happen in the US, doesn't happen in the UK, but this is a parasite that you can get in other areas, including Africa, Asia, South America. And what happens is you get a bite from something as simple as a mosquito, and you get this parasitic worm that is a microscopic worm called Wuchereria bancrofti. Sounds crazy, right? And it's a microscopic thread-like worm that crawls up inside of the lymphatics. So the lymphatics they kind of are blood vessels that go next to, they're not really blood vessels, they're next to your blood vessels, and they carry lymphatic fluid, so they keep the fluid around your body from moving freely, so you don't get like one giant leg and then the rest of your body looks normal. It keeps it equal throughout your body. And what happens is these little tiny needle-like worms go inside of the lymphatics and they block it, and then all of a sudden the fluid can no longer get down, let's say for example, to your leg. So in this case, he probably had them stuck in his leg there, and the fluid built up inside of his scrotum and his penis, causing it to be very large for 17 whole years until he decided to go get this checked out. And I think really the worst part of this story is that when the guy finally went to get this checked out, he was given anti-parasitic medicine and it went away within 2 months and his symptoms completely resolved. It's just like, "Take this pill, you'll be fine," and that's it. So,
Don't you think this is just so typical man to like ignore something for almost 2
yeah.
decades to have it
Yes.
resolve with a simple pill in 2 months?
There's a definite trend that you notice when it has to do with health problems with a man's penis, for sure. It's like it just automatically, like, shuts off some part of their brain, like, they don't wanna address it because and for this guy, like, I mean, he was saying that it made his penis huge and he had a partial erection, so maybe he was using it to his advantage, I don't know.
Who knows, but let's get on to a teeth regrowing drug.
This is so cool. I wanted to share this with you guys. I read about this the other day that they've come up with a medication actually that's going into human trials soon.
Yeah, it's September.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be for people that are born without teeth, but they're saying that if it works, it could be for anyone that's lost teeth, and it's to avoid getting dentures and all this stuff. I feel like I was reading this and I was like, dentists are probably panicking right now because that's how they make all their freaking money. And if you could just give someone a pill to grow back teeth. I mean, it worked in ferrets. They said that ferrets have similar like tooth buds to humans have, and it worked in them to regrow teeth. So they're hoping that it works in humans without side effects.
Yeah, so this September, 30 healthy male adults are participating in the first trial, and if it goes well, they're going to start moving on to other age groups and other natural conditions where people don't have teeth and everything. So this could be a really new, affordable option for dental care, which I'm sure dentists are quaking in their boots about.
Right? Like, what else are you gonna go
No
for?
more
'Cause
new
even
Porsche every other year.
like, what are you gonna do too? Because it's like, you why even get your teeth cleaned if one of them rots out? Just grow a new one, like, their whole business is
Ew.
going down.
All right. In a more serious note, the man who was the first recipient of the world's first successful transplant of a genetically edited pig kidney has died less than 2 months after the procedure.
What I think is the most significant thing that I read in this article was that Massachusetts General Hospital said that it had no indication that his death was being caused by being the recipient of this pig kidney.
Well, wouldn't they know his cause of death by now?
Yes, I get not necessarily. I mean, the reason that I'm saying that is like they might know it and they might, I mean, they don't say anything. He could have died by suicide. He could have been murdered. He could like and then they would know for sure that that was definitely not the cause. But if he died from natural causes associated, I mean, you would just have to say that it was somehow associated. So I don't know. I mean, technically if he died, the family doesn't really have to disclose that to them if they don't want to.
Yeah, and they're saying, like, the family ultimately was saying that obviously they're devastated by his loss, but they're happy that this procedure was able to inspire other people and give them hope. So maybe it wasn't really connected, and I just don't know.
Yeah, I just want to like, all right, if you're going to make a claim like that and you're trying to like push this on other people, I want to know exactly how this guy died.
Yeah,
I
that's how
mean,
I feel about it too. Like, don't just be like, "Well, it wasn't our fault." Like,
yeah,
why wasn't it
well,
your fault?
and just say like cuz this thing it was groundbreaking as far as transplants go and it could very well be. He could have died in a car accident. We just don't know.
I mean, is it still considered groundbreaking, however, because like I don't know, because it still gave him 2 more months of life regardless, right? So,
It's considered groundbreaking because ultimately if you can get the guy out of the hospital, it worked kind of, right? Like he didn't reject it in 2 months that we know of, and that's groundbreaking. So even if it wasn't for this particular guy, it's still the research can make it go a step further when they figure out what happened. So all they said was that he died, and we don't know how he died. And
yeah,
like I
so
said, car accident, then yeah, the transplant had nothing to do with it.
yeah, we'll keep our eyes peeled and see if they ever come out with that, which I'm sure they won't. So, next, a couple in Texas has welcomed 4 identical quadruplets. Doctors put the odds at having identical quadruplets at about 1 in 15 million. They were delivered by C-section at 29 weeks gestation.
This is nuts. 72 cases have been documented of
That
this. It's spontaneous.
that were natural, not by any
IVF.
assistance.
Spontaneous. Like, imagine, first of all, this would be my worst nightmare ever come true. But in pathology once, when I had a resident sitting behind me that got a placenta once, a quadruplet in it, and it was the weirdest looking thing. He was saying, he kind of made a joke that it looked like a remember that game from the 80s that was called like Simon?
No.
That had the buttons. It had like I think it was called Simon. Anyway, he said that it looked like that because it was like the placenta is like a circular disc, and it was kind of split in 4 with little pie spaces for the babies to live in. It was really tiny, but also crazy looking because so they were saying in the article that they were able to confirm by DNA that the babies were definitely identical, which means that they all have the same DNA, but they wanted to look at the placenta for sure to document that. So we get the placenta in surgical pathology, and we need to look at the insertion of the fetal membranes to see the relationships between all the babies to see if it was indeed from one egg that split 4 times, which is outrageous. I mean, that's just really outrageous.
Yeah.
So that would be such a cool, like, whoever gets this placenta is just like lucky as a PA, right? That they get this like mega specimen that nobody will ever see again. But it's just a really cool case, and they all lived, which is even crazier. And she already had 2 kids.
She had 2 kids,
Oh
and
my
they
gosh.
weren't trying. This was a
Oh my
surprise
God.
pregnancy. Yeah, but the smallest baby was born at 2 pounds 7 ounces. Largest was 2 pounds 13 ounces. They're in the NICU currently, but their doctors are hopeful that all of them will be out by July.
Could you imagine, like, think about just other things down the line, like these kids going to school and all being in the same class and all looking exactly the same? How outrageous is that?
Well, this is always, I have this like fear I'm going to have twins because my dad's a twin. So like, I'm just like, how do you keep track of them when they're babies?
And twins is nothing, I guess,
I
compared to
know.
having 4 of them.
Like, do you get little bracelets made for all the babies?
I don't
so
know.
you
I
can
would
keep
like paint
track
their
of-
toe. Can you like paint their toenail or something?
You would have to, or you would have to have a color chart up in the nursery because how are you keeping track of which colors?
I don't know. You definitely would have to hire someone to help you at that point. I don't even think family could be around that much.
Well, yeah, they only had 2 kids. They were like, all right, whatever, we'll have 3, and now they have 6. Like, think about
Oh my God. Yeah, and another good part of the story too is that the wife said she had already had 2 kids and she was going to get the ultrasound, and she said to her husband, like, you already seen it a couple times. Like, you could go to another one, go to work or whatever. And just, she received that news by herself. And the doctor was like, let's call your husband.
Yeah, and then when they called, I imagine Pop up in a situation, call him.
I wouldn't, but I
He'd
think
be like,
no
"You're
one would
kidding
believe you.
me."
Yeah, I don't think anybody would believe you. Like, they'd be like, okay.
Well, yeah, especially because I feel like that's like news you need to deliver in person, not over the phone.
Yeah, and I don't know if that would be like a happy phone call, right? I'd be like, we need to sit down.
So, in another totally bizarre situation, these 2 baseball players look like identical twins. They have the same name. They look exactly alike. They're both 6'4", have red hair, a red beard. They both wear glasses, and both of their names are Brady Fiegel. So, and they're on different teams. So they didn't know if it was like a Parent Trap situation, and they were.
This is 100% a Parent Trap situation. It's like Parent Trap came to life.
Yeah. So literally, like looking at these 2 people side by side, they are identical twins, in my opinion. So they didn't know if it was a Parent Trap situation, so they got testing to see if they were related, and they are not related.
Wait, what?
They're not related.
I don't believe this.
Yes.
How do they have the same name, first of all? And it's a weird name. It's not like Joe Smith.
I don't know.
Is this story real? Seriously.
I don't know.
I can't even believe.
Can you imagine if it was fake?
I'm starting to think it is now because there's how is there 2 people with the same exact weird name that look that much alike?
It said the only thing they had in common was they both had over 50% of German nationality. They literally are identical twins.
We're gonna have to fact check this story because this is the most outrageous thing I ever heard. Like, oh, there's a guy that has your same exact weird name. Like, if I was just like, I don't know, somewhere and someone was like, hey, there's another person named Nicole and Jemmy here, I'd be like, okay, well, I want to meet them because that's kind of interesting. It's not the most usual name. And then we show up together and like, hi, oh, wait, you look exactly like me. You're just as tall as me. You look like
Wait,
my
no.
identical
That
twin.
that would be a parent trap situation, like twins running into each other, right? But like, why would they have the same exact name?
It's the same exact name, which is so weird. Like, even in the Parent Trap, they didn't do that because they thought that that was too outrageous for people to
Yeah, they
believe in
didn't
the
even have the
movie.
same last name. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like,
both
how?
of them are named Brady Fiegel or Feigl, however it's pronounced. But oh my
Yeah.
god, you have to see the picture of them side by side. I think we're getting spoofed here. They're not. They're not
It's
related.
just this story just cannot be further from the truth.
I know, seriously. Especially because they're both gingers too. Like, I don't think gingers are as rare as they claim to be. I feel like the girls were jokingly calling Ricky a rare because what they learned, but like I see redheaded people everywhere.
Well, it's like 2 to 3% of the population. And what's like Ricky is like a true ginge, right? But like I see kids all the time that have like strawberryish hair. Like what's the threshold?
I think he's the threshold because like in the winter time his hair gets kind of brown, but it's orange like all the time.
Yeah, I don't know.
And he's freckly too. He's really freckly too,
No,
you know?
yeah.
So but like Louis, for example, has brown hair, but his beard gets kind of red in the summer.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Like Ricky's extra orange in the summer.
He's like the same color as the sun.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll love that I'm talking about this. He hates. Okay. Next. 3 women have contracted HIV at a New Mexico salon from vampire facials. So, do you want to explain what these disgusting facials are for everybody? This is like my worst nightmare.
So they do this, they prick the skin on your face with some kind of a needle situation, which I would think it's probably similar to like a tattoo, just like an abrasion, a scratching
Yeah.
of the skin. Maybe not as deep, but like a light scratching of the skin. They take blood out of your arm, they spin it down, they separate the blood cells from the plasma, and they put the plasma back onto top of the skin. And it's supposed to be like make you so youthful. It was like a big thing a couple years ago on social media with all these celebrities getting it done and stuff. And when you have a salon and spa that isn't following bloodborne pathogen rules and really any regulations as to how to handle these things, blood was getting mixed up somehow and people were exposed to HIV, which is, I mean, that's really bad.
It legit looked like a nail salon doing this procedure. Like not a
Well,
med
I
spa
wouldn't
where
be
it shouldn't be conducted. So the VIP Beauty Salon and Spa in Albuquerque offered these vampire facials and was closed in 2018 after an investigation revealed unwrapped needles scattered in the salon and unlabeled syringes.
Yeah, again, though, this is what I want to say. Like, you're saying that this should be done at a med spa, but technically it's actually less, well, with the exception of the taking of the blood, I guess, but the actual vampire part where they scrape up the face is less invasive probably than even getting a tattoo, which people don't have to be doctors to perform. I always thought tattoo shops are a little weird because they use needles and they have bloodborne pathogens, and so I would be working at the lab with specimens with blood, and then I would walk over to the shop to get tattooed, and then they were like throwing the trash with blood right in a regular trash can, but at the hospital it had to go in a biohazard trash bag. And it's just like, what's the difference?
Well,
And then when you go,
what about like period products too? Because they
exactly,
are
they just go
thrown-
in regular too. So it's just interesting to me. I mean, I don't think, because when I used to take blood, I didn't even have a college degree yet. I just did phlebotomy. But I'm not sure that I would be able to do that with, like, I did that at the hospital under the supervision of doctors, and I guess you would say. I don't know if you're allowed to take people's blood legally without without having some kind of medical certification. And obviously, like, this is why you can't do this without any medical license, because this is what happens when you don't take that shit seriously.
Yeah.
But I feel like this could happen in other situations, like, I mean, we talked about nail salons, someone getting herpes from that, and just nail salons to cut you with the either taking your calluses off or cutting you with cuticle nippers, and they could easily transfer things as well.
Yeah. So 3 women have tested positive, and then in June of 2022, the spa's owner, who was 62 years old, pled guilty to 5 felony counts of practicing medicine without a license and was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. So interesting.
Adios. Okay, other death news.
So during the Ohio State University graduation a couple weeks ago, a woman had fallen to her death from the bleachers during the ceremony. It was initially thought to be an accident, but now the coroner is saying that it was a potential suicide.
Yeah, the witnesses said that I guess the woman was with her husband and her child, and then said she wanted to get a better look, and witnesses said that they watched her crawl up or climb up to the highest point, go behind bleachers and jump. And like, her daughter was graduating, dude.
Yeah, how horrible is that?
Yeah, on top of just, I mean, to lose your mom from suicide in general, just all of the media attention surrounding that, they released her name. So now the daughter, everyone knows that this was this kid's mom. I mean, it's just terrible.
Yeah, and it's like a big day for you. That's a big accomplishment. And then like something tragic like this happens too. It's never going to leave that person.
And even really, like, everyone that was there that witnessed it, you're just, I
Yeah,
mean,
'cause
we
they
just went to a graduation or Gabe's graduation, right? Could you imagine if some shit like that happened? It's disturbing and it's upsetting.
No, because they said they didn't like stop the graduation at all. They proceeded with it, but a lot of people witnessed it. So they were just kind of like, what do we do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially it not being an accident is even more disturbing.
Yeah, it really is. All right, so our next story, a group of kids were fishing in a Mississippi pond when they reeled in a quote, highly decomposed human leg. The bone still had a sock on it. So they called police, and a subsequent search turned up more skeletal remains, including part of a skull. It's unclear how long the remains were in the water, but they're saying it was in a no trespassing and no fishing area, and there wasn't very high traffic, but clearly people could easily get back there if little kids were fishing back there and a whole body was dumped.
Yeah, and like, clearly, this is like the theory of this entire episode, that people don't read signs, right?
Yeah, seriously.
And you don't know, it could have been someone that was like dumped there, right?
Yeah. So this last story is like beyond what are you thinking? 5 years after an LAPD officer was accused of fondling a dead woman's breast, her family is set to receive a $250,000 settlement to end their case against the city. So in 2019, paramedics had covered this woman's body with a sheet. This guy and his partner were the officers that responded to the call. This guy then lifted the sheet, exposed the dead woman's upper torso, and squeezed her right breast twice, all of which was caught on his body cam, and he said he was just investigating to see if she had any wounds. To which the
Yeah.
judge said was extremely unconvincing.
Yeah, and I'm sure they watched the video in court too. He was saying that there was like a weird mark on her boob, and he wanted to check it to see if it was an injury, which I could see that maybe, but if you were doing that, you would kind of press like with your two fingertips maybe and pinch, rather than like grab a breast as if you were fondling it. There's no reason you would need to grab the entire breast.
Yeah,
And really, like, he's not the medical examiner. He doesn't need to determine the wounds.
yeah, and like he lifted the sheet up and like went about and did it. Like this seems like some weird fetish this guy has.
Yeah. I mean, think about, just how disturbing this is and stuff. It's like, imagine being known as a guy that like felt up a dead person. How gross is that?
No, it is disgusting, and it's like I'm sure they could tell in the foot. I mean, I'm pretty sure the police department is the one that initiated the investigation into this, not like somebody reported it, right? So I'm sure there was a clear, like, he grabbed the breast in a sexual way versus the way they typically would have to handle something like that.
Yeah,
If his
it's
own police force was the one to put the investigation forward.
I don't understand what people are thinking.
Yeah, so,
And
like,
and like I'm sure he's done it before too, which is even more disturbing. And imagine losing someone that you love and then hearing having to have this court case come up. You're going to court because a cop like felt up your dead family member. Like it's
no, it's
just
it's the same as, like, when we talked about those morgue workers and stuff that have assaulted, like, dead bodies and stuff, I would just rather not know. I
not
guess
no,
you have to
exactly.
know because they have to press charges against him, but
Yeah, exact
it's
I don't know.
horrible. Okay, on to question of the day. Every Friday at the at Mother Knows Death Instagram account, you could ask your question. We put up a little prompt thing in the story, so you could ask whatever you want. Number 1, how do you know where a cancer originated from when it's spread all over?
That's a good question. So let's say, for example, someone pops up with a tumor in their lungs. So, in the general rule is that if you do imaging and you see a tumor on imaging, if there's one tumor, that is likely to be a primary tumor, and if there's multiple tumors, that's likely to be a metastasis. That rule isn't hard and fast though, and there's multiple situations where people could have two of the same tumor and have different situations that occur around that, but that's in general that's the rule. So that's just on imaging. Then the next step would be to biopsy that. So let's say they found one lesion in the lung, they would biopsy it, and if they biopsy it, they take a piece of the tissue and they do something called immunohistochemistry markers on it. And that is done in our lab, so we would process it in the pathology lab, and then the histotechs and histology do special stains on it, and those special stains, depending on what's positive, can tell us like, hey, this is a melanoma, or this came from the breast, or this originated in the lung, because different tumors are positive for different markers. Also, microscopically, what's really interesting too is if we look at a tumor from the lung, it's either going to be like one of a couple things. You can have a tumor that arises from the glandular cells, which is an adenocarcinoma, or you could have a tumor which arises from the squamous cells, which is called squamous cell carcinoma. You could also have small cell, whatever, but all of these tumors have a very specific look under the microscope. And so if we're looking at like lung under the microscope and then let's say they have breast cancer metastasized there, it has like a certain look. So the doctor already know like, hey, this kind of looks like what breast cancer looks like. It just looks different than lung cancer. But really the way to confirm it is to do these markers on it. And then once they do that, they're able to, because there's lots of times that a person pops up with like a lung tumor or something and didn't even know they had breast cancer and it had spread already. So that's how they kind of go about that.
Okay, next. As a pathology resident, how can I not be annoying to the PAs?
I worked with so many residents, and there's some residents that I absolutely loved, and there's some residents that I didn't love working with. So I'll tell you the traits about, and I wouldn't say I hated them because I really, really liked all of the residents and even loved a lot of the residents that I used to work with. Just a great group of people. But the ones that I really, really liked and really loved are the ones that they were interested in pathology and they weren't lazy. Like, for example, when you're trying to look for lymph nodes and stuff, like you just take that extra time to look for them instead of just like throwing a bunch of fat and 50 cassettes just because you're too lazy to look for them. And if you have questions, just ask. Like, I had residents asking me questions all the time, but they were it's the same thing as like taking care of your kids. Like, some people would ask good questions, and other ones I'm like, well, did you try to do this first? Did you, like, you're a grown up working in the lab. Like, there's a certain level of things that you should be able to do by yourself. And then if you need help, you ask, but don't ask because you're too lazy to do it yourself, kind of thing. Um, that's all I could say. The best doctors I've ever worked with, either residents or attendings, have always been ones that are not like think it's above them to help clean up or to help move a body or anything like that. Like they're just like always act very equal to me in that respect, and they're always the best doctors that you work with. They're not like snobby kind of.
All right, last. I'm 37. I feel like I'm going to work until I die, but I would love to be a PA. Am I too old?
No. I mean, I don't ever want to tell anybody that they're too old to do anything. Sometimes with autopsy, it's a little bit more physically strenuous if you have to, especially if you're by yourself and you don't have help to move bodies and stuff. But yeah, I mean, in general, you can get a job in Surge Path and just kind of sit at a desk all day and dissect smaller things. And so it's not, I mean, it is hard to sit all day on your body, but it's not physically a job that you wouldn't be able to do. And mentally, as long as you have mental ability, like you could work. I know doctors that are still working and they're almost 80 years old and they're awesome at their job. Like age is just kind of a number. So I think, yeah, if you want to do it, do it.
Yeah, because like you were what, my age when you graduated from grad school?
Yeah, I was probably 29 or 30. Yeah.
So most of the people graduating with you were like 23 or 24 if they went straight through from high school.
Yeah, like Laura and Nikki, I think were 24, and LP and CRISPR were kind of closer to my age, but then we had two older people in my class too. So, and when I went to cytology school and I was only 20, 21 or whatever, then we had older, like 40-year-old people in our class. So it just depends. I just don't think like it's especially like, so right now I'm 44, right? But and I have Maria. So if Maria was my only kid, I would be able to like go back to school or do whatever I want because I don't have anything to do besides my job, right? Like, and all of my extra things. And now it's like my kids are little, but once they're you know, what are they going to be, 20 in 10 years, right? Like,
yeah.
I'll be 55. Well, at that point, they'll be in college and out of college and doing what they're doing with their adult life. And I might go back to school. I don't know. Like, why not?
I mean,
it doesn't mean like I'm retired. Put me out to pasture.
Gabe just became a doctor last week.
Yeah. My husband did. Yeah. My husband just got his doctorate and he's going to be 50 soon. So, and I just read a story actually that a woman from, I think it was Howard University, if I'm not mistaken, just got her doctorate. She was the oldest person to get her doctorate and she was like 80 or 82 years old. So I don't know. Like, I mean, the only thing is that obviously going to school and stuff costs money and you have to always figure out if you could handle that. But like, if you can, why, like, who says?
Yeah.
Right?
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. We will see you in a couple days with another set of news stories. A lot happened in the couple weeks we were away. So we're excited to share those all with you. See ya.
See ya. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.